It's a Wonderful Life has often been heralded as the greatest Christmas movie of all time. So much so that even to this day, right down to the present day, in fact, even this year, it plays on television every Christmas time. It's the story, of course, that's probably familiar to all of us right now, by now, I should say. It's the story of George Bailey, played by Jimmy Stewart very famously. And the whole theme of the movie is about the good, the impact that one man can do in a community, and what really matters in life. There are many famous scenes in this movie, as we know. There's the bell ringing about an angel getting his wings and so forth. There's George Bailey running through town in the middle of the snowstorm, being given new life and hugging his family and racing up the stairs and so on. There's so many wonderful and very iconic moments to this beautiful Christmas movie. But there's one scene that I'd like to point out for us this morning that really struck me when I first saw this movie. Early on in the film, we hear about how the Baileys operate the building and loan. And they do that to help those who need financial loans to buy a house and so forth in their community in such a way that is independent from being beholden to the big miser in the community, Mr. Potter, or some other big corporation or whatever it might be. And right as the Great Depression is hitting, because this scene in the movie takes place as a flashback or as a story in the past, there is a run on every bank in 1929. And there's a run on the building and loan as well. And Jimmy Stewart walks into the room and sees this crowd of people, everybody from town, who has taken out a loan of money from his building and loan, from his family. And they all want to take their money out right then and there because they're panicking about the depression and are they going to have anything in 2 weeks or so forth? Is the government or someone going to shut the building and loan down? And after begging the people and pleading with them, please don't take your money out. It's just today. We don't have to panic about this. When he saw that he could get nowhere, his wife, who he had just recently married, held up an envelope with their money that they were going to use for their honeymoon and said, "We have cash right here if anyone wants to take some out today." And so George takes the money and one by one starts giving it to everybody and says, "Don't worry about this. We know you." And one by one, he's even speaking to the people and saying, "Don't worry about this. This is a loan. We know you. We know that you're trustworthy. We trust you with these monies that we're giving you." The plan works, and the building and loan does not close in a very, very bleak moment for the entire country. A moment of just incredible generosity saves the business and saves the entire town as they knew it. It's a beautiful message, and one that I think is appropriate because often during the holidays we think about how much we can afford and how much we can spend on gifts and how much we can spend on the following year and our mortgage and all the other things that we might have. With regards to us in the present day, the holiday season, this holiday season, pandemic notwithstanding, is the first year that economists are estimating that holiday shoppers, Christmas shoppers, will spend over $1 trillion on Christmas gifts for the first time in history. The average American family spends I read last week anyway, between $800 and $1,000 on gifts between Thanksgiving and New Year's. We often think about money during this time and about giving, just like the message in the movie and many other messages in that same movie. And so we think about these things during the holidays. We think about these things during Christmas. We think about generosity. We think about our blessings. We think about helping others, as George Bailey did. And we think about giving, don't we? We think about generosity. Generosity has become something that is typical of the holidays, and maybe that's why that message works so effectively in It's a Wonderful Life, that message about generosity and helping others. It just fits right at home during the holidays, right at home during Christmas. St. Paul today, in his letter to the Hebrews, wrote to the people of God about generosity. but not the generosity that we might think of as human beings, not dollars and cents or drachmas or denarii in the Mediterranean world of that day. He wrote about the generosity of God, and really the gospel passage today is as well. If you want to extrapolate that, even the whole Bible, all of the scriptures are about the generosity of God. But there's one particular moment that I would like to highlight today in St. Paul's words to us. He also gives a genealogy, if you will, a genealogy of sorts. Famously, we know that the genealogy of Christ is read before the Sunday before Christmas. Paul also talks, however, about the heroes of the faith. And he talks about some names that for any Hebrew living in the Mediterranean world or anywhere in his day would have been absolutely legendary by that point. He brings up Gideon and David and Samuel and so many others. He brings up these giants of the faith and all that they did and all that God did for them specifically. And at the end of all of that passage, he says, but God had foreseen something better for us. In other words, as great as all of this was in the history of mankind, in the history of salvation, for us, Paul says, God has something even better planned. To any Christian or Jew hearing these words, these must have come as a complete and utter shock to anyone hearing this. Greater than David? Greater than Samuel? Greater than Gideon? And all the rest? How on earth, how possibly could God give us something greater than all that he gave them? All the blessings he gave them? And of course, Paul was referring to the promise of Jesus Christ. But the message here, if I may underline, is God's generosity to us and to all who are to come knows no bounds. We think about generosity during Christmas, and yet God's generosity is unfathomable. There are no limits. We hear about $800 to $1,000. We think about budgets. We think about all the gifts that will be given. And yet everything that God does for us, indeed all that he has done for us, is immeasurably, unquantifiably greater than any price we could put on a gift, any loan, anything. God's generosity, because of his love for us, truly knows no bounds. And this gift, by the way, because it's not something that it's not because of anything we have done that he is generous to us in the ways that he is. If it was dependent on us, I can speak in terms of what Father Niko would be owed on Christmas time, nothing. If it was beholden on us to do something to be worthy or to earn this generosity, there would be no generosity. Certainly not like we see in our faith today and in the scriptures and in all of time and what God has done for us. It is a gift. And that is why this promise, the promise of Jesus Christ, the promise of eternal life, and all that he has done for us, the destruction of death, our salvation, that is why it absolutely knows no bounds. God's generosity. It is incredible. Because today has also been designated by our parish leadership as Stewardship Sunday, I might as well, I'm going to go a little parenthetically this way a little bit, but this is exactly why every year it comes time to talk about these things again. And often we have many different reasons or many different viewpoints, sometimes distorted viewpoints on why we give, and even certainly why we give to the church. But theologically, and at the end of the day, the bottom line is we give because God gives to us. We give because it is a way of saying thank you to God for all that He has done for us. We see the sacrifice of George Bailey canceling his honeymoon to give to the people when they were in need. Think about God giving Himself His own life. It is simply a way, even though, again, nothing can ever equal what God has given us. But nevertheless, it is a way, it is a gesture, giving something back to Him, and to charity and to philanthropy, especially during the holidays. But certainly giving back is a way of expressing gratitude, is a way of saying, Lord, I acknowledge that everything I have is a gift from You. Everything You have promised is a gift from You. Here is something, a portion of those things back. And so when it comes time, my brothers and sisters, when we think about gifts, if we ever find ourselves perhaps questioning our own worth or value, or what is this person, I don't want to say worth in terms of what we spend on their gift, or what they spend on us for that matter. If we get a gift, we says, well, gosh, maybe that person could have gotten me a little bit more expensive of a gift, or that was too much. This person shouldn't have given me this gift. When we think in terms of like these, when we think in terms like these, when we reflect on our own value, when we reflect on our own self-worth, what does it mean for me to be a human being, to be a child of God? What do these things mean? Look no further than this line, than these beautiful words of St. Paul. God had foreseen something better for us, even better, unfathomably better, incredibly better. It really is amazing to even think about. St. Justin Popovich said, give up everything for Christ. Do not give up Christ for anything. Give up everything for Christ. Do not give up Christ for anything. This value that God places on us, so much so as to give Himself, give His only begotten Son, to come Himself to earth in the form of a lowly baby in a cave, speaks volumes about what He believes about us and how much He values us as His children. Let us always remember this, even in our darkest moments, even in those moments where we do find ourselves questioning, does God love me, or does anyone love me? How much am I worth? And so on. Let's not get hung up on those things. Let us always remember this beautiful message, this promise that has been given to us, that a child is born for our salvation. His name is Emmanuel, God with us. As we celebrate all of these things this week, let us seek to be generous to those around us and to the church. And as by extension, thanking God for all His generosity and love He demonstrates to us. God bless you and Merry Christmas. Amen.